And we're live. This one, I can't believe that there even is a discussion. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel. Welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast, number 233. This is the one about Jeet Kune Do self-defense. As you're logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button. Feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast. If you're catching the simulcast over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, please consider making a purchase over at jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you'll see stuff like this: the JKD Rebel, the JKD Notables coffee mug, hoodie, sweatshirt, t-shirt, long sleeve, short sleeve, all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast, right? So add a little bit of a technical setup there, so it's thrown me off my game so much, such as I have. So anyhow, if you've listened to either of these podcasts, the broadcasts or the dialogues, you might know, if you listen frequently, you might know that I spend time every week commuting on public transportation to train a few of my private clients. So very often I go to an extreme, and I'll get, for example, I'll get on the southbound train because I'm only 2 stops from the terminus. So I'll get on the southbound train in order to be able to choose exactly where I will sit when I head north on the train, right? So it turns around and comes back out. That way I can keep an eye on almost everybody that gets into the car, and I can make an assessment whether or not this is somebody that could be any kind of a threat. And this is even more important when you get on the bus, since you get, I'll call it a wider spectrum of characters riding the bus than riding the train, if you know what I mean. So as I sit there, you know, and I've done it so often, it's automatic. I run through possible scenarios in my mind, and I realize that to think that footwork, mobility, 3 to 4 punches, and 3 to 4 kicks is enough of an arsenal, right, to handle what might occur. And if you were to go on to describe Jeet Kune Do in that way, that'd be a fairly huge miscalculation, right? And when it comes to self-defense, it's obvious if you take a look at the pages of the fighting method. It's obvious that Bruce Lee thought that way as well, since there are photo sequences in which we have the different volumes, right, where he does pay attention to mobility and agility and the striking aspects, right? The 3 or 4 punches, the 3 or 4 kicks. But then in the self-defense sequences, he made sure to include stuff like surprise attacks, weapon attacks, seated attacks even. When you look at what he did, when you look at how he presented this, you understand that if you understand what you're looking at, you can see that he is implying all the important concepts that make Jeet Kune Do an effective fighting art. Simplicity, directness, economy of motion, all those things are featured throughout the volumes. Even the concept of longest weapon to closest target. So, for example, guy grabs you by the shirt, you smack him hard. A guy headlocks you, you smack him in the groin. And like I said just now, Bruce Lee doesn't stop at just empty hands stuff. He applies the same ideas to the weapons defenses that he shows, right? A guy swings at you with a club, avoid it, then move in, shut him down, right? Radically simple stuff. But since the late 1960s, because I think these photographs were done 66, 67, things have changed for both the good guys and the bad guys in terms of skill level and even the nature of assaults, the nature of attacks. So unless you've been living in a cave with no TV and no Wi-Fi, then you know, for example, that grappling is much more popular today than 60 years ago. And so you're much more likely to encounter it in a self-defense situation. That does not mean that Jeet Kune Do, with its emphasis on self-defense, needs to become a grappling art. But it does mean that Jeet Kune Do practitioners need to spend more time analyzing and developing grappling as an offensive or defensive or counter-offensive skill, however you want to look at it, right? And similarly with weaponry. And different JKD people will take different approaches to this. Some will jump fully into the grappling all the way to black belt. Some will train it up to the point where they feel comfortable. Some will use competition to gain their understanding of what works and what doesn't work. Now, as an aside, because I mentioned competition, don't go off on a tangent about how Jeet Kune Do is not a sport and what have you, right? Because combat athletes, remember this, they are athletes, right? First and foremost. So even if all they benefited, right? Let's say that combat athletes develop no fighting skill. All they developed was superb cardiovascular condition, for example, right? It would still benefit them, all right? So that's an aside. What I'm talking about is by doing that, by jumping into grappling, for example, that's Jeet Kune Do keeping up with the times, Jeet Kune Do evolving to remain relevant. Now, if we look at techniques, the techniques of old school Jeet Kune Do, I'll use that phrase, those techniques were products of their times. Now, that does not automatically mean that old school JKD techniques are no longer viable or relevant. We keep whichever of those do remain viable, while we use the philosophy which led to their original creation. We use that same philosophy to help us to determine what today needs to be refined, modified, adapted, or developed as needs be, right? So finally, however you choose to structure or approach the self-defense aspect of your Jeet Kune Do training, you do have to ensure that you're following all the important guidelines, primary among them being I would almost call it the compulsory concepts of simplicity, directness, effectiveness, or some people will say efficiency, and then non-classical in the approach. And that's it, right? So what say you? Do you think that nothing in Jeet Kune Do needs to be modified or what have you when it comes to self-defense, or do we have to take a more contemporary look at what we're doing? Let me know in the comments below. That's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, comment, rate, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're over on the YouTube, follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods, at paypal.me/UnifiedMA Miami. The Jeet Kune Do Journey Volume 1 is available. You can pick that up there. Coming up on Friday, the 24th, will be Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode, maybe his third time on the program, with Ed Stahl of Metrolina Martial Arts. And that should be at the regular 6 p.m. Eastern time. Today's indigo shirt. There you go. All right. So hopefully I'll see some of you on Friday with Ed Stahl. If not, see you next Wednesday for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Talk soon.